Hi, I'd like to welcome everybody for our second doubleheader episode today. My name's Eric. I'm joined by Laquan and Kevin.
What's up?
How are you guys hanging in there?
Losing my mind. It's great.
Q, I think
I'm
your
good.
mic might
I'm
be
good.
muted.
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So for today, we're going to start off with a 20-minute segment talking about recent events, some things that have been in the news. And then we're going to get into our second segment where we're going to talk a little bit more about the Dakota Access Pipeline and some updates on that. And then we're going to try to mix it up and do something fun, which is getting fit and in shape for summer. So hopefully we can have a little bit of a positive twist at the end here. So
I'm throwing a wild card at you guys.
Are you now?
Yeah, I am. Australia is cooking right now. The heat down there, like I just saw it. So, I mean, I'm going to pull up the temperatures, but this is like record-breaking heat down in Australia right now.
I mean, it's not global warming or anything, is it? I mean, it's just regular. I mean, it's not how it is, right?
Yeah, no, of course not.
Oh, okay. All right. Just want to make sure. Let's throw that out the window.
And
first.
as long as it's just the weather, because climate,
Yeah.
Hey, you should define climate as opposed to weather for all the uneducated.
Well, so it is something that's typically misunderstood, but weather is more of a day-to-day account of whatever your atmospheric conditions are around you. Climate is when you look at those patterns over long periods of time and you look to see if there are trends. If there's an extended warming period or an extended cooling period, climate has to do with a longer period of time, and you look at those fluctuations between summer and winter.
So yes, and the specific time frame that they generally use is 30-year average. So it's not like 5 years. It's a fair bit. All right, so I like to think of myself as fairly educated and worldly, and I just pulled up this article, and all the temperatures are in Celsius, and I'm fucking lost.
I would be too.
So, so 45C, let's see what that is where they're at. 113 degrees.
Whoa, that's Phoenix temperature.
Yeah, and this is the southeastern part, so down around.
Can you share your screen on that if you have the image up?
I had the porn bar.
Yeah, no, I got a lot of stuff going on the desktop. Hold on. Okay.
That reminds me of the Kuwait weather and Iraq weather. Goodness.
Yeah. And, keep in mind, too, what a lot of people also maybe don't think about as much is that when you're at lower elevations for something like climate change, that's where it's going to hit you the most because it's just going to get hotter and hotter and hotter. And we're talking extreme temps.
Yeah. Okay. So, basically, the darker purples and the black, that can't be good. Like you're right there in that's where most of the people are, right? Is down on that. Can you see my mouse? Down at Sydney, Melbourne, that whole area.
The southeastern part, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look at it. It's just cooking. So
Wow.
1/5 could see it above 40C, 46, 43. Catastrophic fire danger on Sunday. So this is stuff that we see in we'll see this in California, places like that, when we get some of the weather phenomenon popping up, El Nino, La Nina kind of stuff, where it ends up getting stupid hot. But they get the opposite of it down there.
Right. Well, I think we're going to be seeing more of that. And that's where, I do want to dig into more because I have some friends that, it's, what, let me show this real quick. So I'm saying this because one of my friends is pretty heavily biased on the right. And I found this really good website for anybody that wants to take a look at this. And it's basically a way to check your news source to see if it is in fact biased. So this is called mediabiasfactcheck.com. And what you can do here, you can click on any one of these buttons and it'll let you know, if there's a left bias, these are the organizations that will do this. And actually, I have to say, looking through this, it's making me look at a lot of my news feed that I get through Facebook, and I might even start unfollowing some of these. I'm not just sure just yet, but I definitely want to get the least bias possible. They include their methodology of how they're able to assess bias through all of this. And if you do a Google search and say you do something like, I don't know, Kevin, give me something that you think would be biased, a news source of some kind.
Fox News.
Fox.
All right, how about Fox News? Media bias. And usually it pops up not too far from the top here. Where to go? Oh, maybe not. Maybe that one's too popular. Oh, here we go. So Fox News for that mediabiasfactcheck.com. If you click on that, it'll let you know on that range just how extreme their bias is. And, when we're talking about bias, what I think is also important to keep in mind is that it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have a fact. It's the way you're spinning that fact. That's where the bias comes in, because you're not just putting it out there and saying, let's look at this from multiple angles. You're putting it out there and saying, no, let's only look at it from this one perspective. And that's where that bias comes in. So,
yeah, it's less about what you say and more about what you're not saying.
right.
Presenting that other side of the argument at all. Obama's a Muslim. And isn't there more? Well, I mean, yeah, there's actually no evidence, but that's what we believe. Well,
and climate change is one of those where you can pretty much pick anything you want out of there and put a spin on it, and that's where we got to be a little careful with that.
That's a good website, man. Good for introducing that, because I just downloaded it right now, and bookmarked it and put it on my as one of the little pages on my iPhone. So
yeah, I mean, and like I said, it's not necessarily that I'll unfollow some websites that I look at, but it'll definitely make me think twice before I just quickly turn around and share it, because I think that's where a lot of my friends who are on the right instantly attack me, and they're like, so wait a minute, you're telling me Occupy Democrats is unbiased? And it's like, all right, you might have a point there. They probably put a twist on some things that they get, and it's natural. I think people just want to make their argument.
Yeah, well, I mean, I like to go with the bullshit test. You go, that smells like bullshit. Whether it's bullshit I enjoy or stuff I don't like, you're like, oh, wow, Donald Trump literally is Satan. This is great. You just got to look at it and you go, I wonder. And that's it's one of the things that those that have been through secondary education, I do it and I don't even realize it anymore, where, oh, what's your source? Where show me your supporting arguments. Or if, I was actually writing a document the other day and I was citing my sources. Completely didn't need to, but I did not want to be accused of plagiarism. So I was like, oh, I'm putting everything in here. But, if it's like one guy's opinion on stuff, like me, right? My opinion on stuff, yeah, you might want to think twice. But if you get a collective unified voice coming out where everyone's saying the same thing, okay, well, that has a little bit more validity to it. Maybe look for some sources, but you don't need, for me saying outrageous inflammatory things, I should be providing data, but that's too hard.
It is difficult. Well, about some, because I just saw one about Edward Snowden potentially getting
served up like a piece of fried chicken.
Dude, that guy's about to.
This is huge. Like, I think it's more than him being served up. I think in the grand scheme of things, like, this is a major power play for Putin. If he gives Snowden up to Trump, and Trump is gonna automatically be like, yeah, give him to us. It's not going to be a victory for Trump, because actually it's going to look bad on Trump, but it looks good for Putin, because for Trump and his cabinet, it's going to solidify relations. So any issues that they had before, it goes away. You give Snowden back, because he's the big traitor. He's this, he's that. So this is strategic. I'm pretty sure this didn't just come up. This is just, again, the bullshit test. You know, you smell it, you're like, okay, there's way more to it than this. This didn't just pop up. Trump talks to Putin probably on a daily basis. You know, even prior to the campaign. You know, this is probably strategy here. I'm telling you.
So I guarantee it happened. They were in the hotel room watching the hookers pee on the bed, and this came up. And no, I'm making that up probably. But seriously, if this does happen, if we see Snowden be extradited back to the U.S., reach in your pocket, grab as much money as you can to send it to the ACLU, because this dude is going to need all of the legal help he can get, because Trump is going to try to crucify him literally on a cross if he can. He called him a traitor. People within his inner circle have called for him to be executed. I mean, this is a guy.
Keep in mind, Trump is also the guy that said we should bring back waterboarding. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like we need Snowden they're gonna crucify this dude. Essentially, yeah. Okay, so when you talk about Snowden, you can talk about he gave all of our secrets out, but I haven't seen an attack based off of those. I haven't seen. Essentially, all he did was tell the world, "Hey, the U.S. government are being a bunch of assholes, and here's some proof."
Us.
Yeah, they're watching everything you do. They're spying on the allies. They're reading your text messages.
That's the thing. And you know what? You bring up a good point, because after everything that he did, and he came out and said, was there a threat to national security? Was there an uprising? No, people just went like, oh, so you mean my dick pics are being watched by the government? Now we actually have proof. Well, all right, maybe I won't send them. You know what I mean? Like, he basically just let us know what was going down, but it didn't stop anything.
Yeah, and they're calling him a traitor for doing it. And so that's what I'm saying. Seriously, like, I like to make jokes and say crazy things, but seriously, if this guy gets brought back to the U.S., send money to his legal defense, because they are going to need it.
Well, I think I look at Trump, and it's like he wants to run a rank and file type of administration, right, for the society. And I feel like when you bring Snowden, I think he is going to be the sacrificial lamb. He's going to be like, you know what, if you ever go against me, even though Snowden is prior to Trump, but if you ever go out of line, you go against me, you do anything, this is what happens. Like, this is Trump's big, like, magnum opus, right? Even if it's in the beginning, like, he's going to let you know and set the tone, like, this is what happens when you do it. Because you know what, I don't even know if all the money to the ACLU is going to help anyway. I think it's already predetermined what's going to happen to him. They'll probably send him to Gitmo or wherever they're going to send him to, because I think he's going to open it back up. I think he was talking about. But anyway, they're going to do something to him, and we'll see a video. I don't think he ever sees the light of day. I don't think he ever sees the light of court at all. Well, the story will come out.
Yeah, and you would hope that is until Trump is gone, and then regime change kicks in, and the pressure. I mean, America is so ADD about this stuff. Like, oh, it's the biggest story in the world. 5 minutes later, hey, look, a Kardashian. So, I mean, this dude did the entire world a giant favor, and if he gets served up, it's not going to be good. It's one of those things that people should have a moral outrage about him being railroaded.
Yeah.
But we don't, though. That's the thing. I don't want to say we, but like society doesn't. Again, as you said, we're more of a microwave society. So as they're broadcasting the story cycle probably lasts maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks at best. If you think about any phenomenon that happens within the United States, the ice bucket challenge, anything, it's a 2-week cycle, and we forget about it. If there's a new dance, anything, it's 2 weeks. And because I always wondered, like, I said, I know it's going to die, but how long? I remember I paid attention one time. It's 2 weeks. Every time it's 2 weeks, and that's the max it takes. 2 weeks before whatever big thing that's happening right now. Yeah, Pokemon Go, everything. 2 weeks and it's gone. When's the last time you heard about Pokemon Go? It lasted 2 weeks and it's gone. Right? It's just what it is. And same thing with Snowden. It's going to last a week, maybe 2, and we'll forget all about it. And then we'll hear about something bad that happened to him. That's it. And
that's part of the social engineering, and you got to give people at the top credit for this. And we were talking about this, and I really look forward to doing a podcast where we look at corporations and how they're connected to one another. Because if you look at the people that have connected everything that society, this is civil engineering at its finest. This is how we organize society. That's why we are set up to not pay attention. Like you guys were saying, we should be talking about sex trafficking and collectively coming together to stop that. But we don't talk about those things. It's a quick headline. It's in our news feed for a couple weeks, and then let's focus more on putting the memes of Donald Trump signing, an executive order and it's saying the alphabet.
Dude, dude, that shit is hilarious.
It was funny. I'm not gonna lie.
No, but I mean, to your point though, and I think we try not hard, but we try at least a little bit. We could do more. Everyone could do a lot more. When you start looking at just the average person, you're like, how does this not piss you off? How does this not actually make you do something? I mean, fortunately, the one thing that I do have to say is, fortunately, Trump being such a gigantic sack of shit I've seen people that are not politically active that are like, I am calling my congressman on a daily basis. This cannot stand. So at least when everyone has someone to hate, you can unify against and hopefully spur to action. It would be great if we could save a few kids from sex trafficking along the way. I don't know, maybe do something about cutting carbon emissions so that we don't all cook like Australia.
Well, let's talk about, just really quickly, one of the other recent events then, the courts and Donald Trump, because this is where we're seeing checks and balances. We are being tested as we speak. This is how the powers of government work. We are supposed to have checks and balances to prevent somebody like Donald Trump from just signing any executive order he wants that'll just rapidly create change. We're supposed to have something in place for that.
He's a maniac, and I think he's shown, I think we've all known this, but I think it's even more present now because he does not like the word no, right? He's very childish, very 3, 4, 5-year-old in his mindset, right? That judge was like, no, this is unconstitutional. I'm revoking the ban. Okay, cool. Not even 24 to 48 hours later, he's like, no, we're going to the appellate court. Appellate court was like, or however long it was, appellate court was like, look, kiss my ass. This is not going through. And what does he say after that? We'll see you in court. They're not going to go to the Supreme Court because if the judge and then the appellate court said no, the Supreme Court, first off, they're divided. So they're going to need all of them to say yes, and they're not. So what happens now? He's angry, right? This could be a false flag too. I don't know, but
I love that he told a bunch of judges, "I'll see you in court."
Yeah. And then Hillary's tweet was amazing, 3-0. So it was 3-0. So it was just that was great.
Hillary needs to go away.
So if I can, I actually want to put this out there because I know for me, it took me a little while before I can understand exactly what was going on. When we're talking about the Court of Appeals and we're talking about how things move through the courts, this is a national map. And if you see in the news where it says the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, this is what they're talking about. For any of these states that are in this district, this is where the appeals court basically, and Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, if it gets denied here, then you take it to the Supreme Court, right? But this is like your last stop before you get to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I think that's kind of, yeah. I mean, there may be certain circumstances where there's another avenue, but in general, you're correct. You get shot down and you eventually make it here. And if they tell you no, or if they tell you to kiss their ass, you can try to take it to the Supreme Court, but the problem with the Supreme Court is, one, they get a lot of cases thrown at them, so they can't hear them all, and they choose not to hear them all. And when you're saying they're divided, it's a 4-4 because the douche McConnell in the Senate wouldn't let them vote on Obama's guy, right, for Supreme Court. So right now it's 4-4, and it's ideological 4-4. You have 4 Republicans, 4 conservatives, I should say, and 4 moderates. I mean, they're not super liberal. They're fairly liberal. They're not real. I mean, I think the conservatives are more conservative than the liberals are liberal. But right then, if let's say that you take the case and they actually agree to hear it, what the Supreme Court tells you is, okay, 4 in support, 4 opposed. The lower court's ruling stands because there wasn't a majority to make a decision. So he can't take it to the Supreme Court because even if he does and they agree to hear it, chances are they're going to go back to that Ninth Circuit Court again, and he's right where he was. He just wasted everyone's time.
Well, that kind of goes to the temperature of society, though, because and I say this because we were talking about the distraction and why aren't more people like just, mad about a lot of things. he called the judge. He was talking about a standing judge, a so-called judge, because he ruled against he revoked the Muslim ban. So he called him a so-called judge, right? So you attack somebody because they didn't go along with you, and nobody's mad about that. That's the thing that makes me cringe inside where we are in society, and it lets me know where we're at in society. Because if you think about him on the campaign trail, making fun of that disabled guy, he's made fun of veterans, he's made fun of that other judge who was of his, I think he was Hispanic,
Right.
and now you're talking about this guy, and so we're talking about a white guy here, you know what I'm saying? So like, I'm surprised there's still not more people angry about that, so it's just, but nobody seems to care, like.
So the judge was appointed by George Bush. So this is not a Obama, minion in his mind. This is, and George Bush wasn't known for putting fair and balanced people in their positions either, But the one person who actually is upset by this is Trump's Supreme Court nominee. He's had conversations with senators where he said it was, I don't want to misquote him, but that he was disheartened and, disgusted by the attack on the judge.
Lack of respect. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is the guy that, and Trump's basically like, you're taking his words out of context. And the Supreme Court nominee judge's spokesman was like, no, he actually said that. That's what he actually said. You cannot attack a judge for doing their job. The thing is, Trump doesn't understand separation of powers. He doesn't get it. He thinks he's the boss of America. And what he's learning is that he's not. He has to do, the judicial branch can tell him no at any given time.
Prior to the Civil War, or not prior, but after the Civil War, we haven't really, well, maybe we have, but how would you contextualize, how have we tested these powers? Because for just a quick reminder for everybody, we have three branches of the government. We have the executive, which is the president. You have the legislative, which is Congress. And then you have the judicial, which are the courts. And that's supposed to be the checks and balances right there between those three.
The Federal Reserve is 4.
Well, and then campaign finance is 5, and I'm lucky number 6.
I really believe this.
But doesn't the Federal Reserve fall under the executive branch?
No,
they're separate, aren't they?
They're their own entity.
No,
yeah.
I thought one of his cabinet picks was to run the Federal Reserve.
They work there.
Yeah, but he has no say so over them.
I'm gonna look that one up.
Yeah, please look it up, because from my knowledge, I think it's literally kiss my ass. I'll do what the hell. I'll tell you what money coming your way. You don't tell me shit. Because think about even when the recession happened, like Bernanke and all them, they listen. I need to talk to you. You come down here, we'll talk. And then this is what you go out and tell people. Think about Greenspan, all them. They don't listen. Hell no. They run the show here. If you think about how the Federal Reserve came along, listen, that could be a whole nother podcast. But if you think about how the Federal Reserve even was formed to begin with, it was formed under shady conditions, and then the founding fathers even wrote in the Constitution that that if this ever happened, it would be, the worst thing that could happen to America, to have a Federal Reserve type bank. I don't think that was actual verbiage, but it was something of that nature. So, but that's a whole nother segment we could talk about. But yeah.
So you got the three branches. Basically what's happened, the reason that Trump is so pissed off right now, I think, is because especially during George Bush and especially during Obama, right? The Congress has really shifted a ton of power to the president. They have, essentially September 11th is what caused it, the Patriot Act, right? That kind of shift of, oh my God, the world's a scary place. We need to give the president power to protect us. And it wasn't like, it wasn't really, the future of what was going to happen wasn't really well thought out. There's a lot of people during Bush that were like, hold on, you guys this guy is not, he's not who you want in charge of anything, and let alone giving him more power. And then Obama got it expanded even more, now. So here's the thing that bothers me. I had to listen to 8 years of the conservatives complaining about dictator Obama with his executive orders. And what do we see right now is Trump governing by executive order. Congress doesn't do shit. He's just writing. Yeah, he's just writing executive order after executive order. And what he's finding is that because there is a massive backlash, it's starting to get on the radar and it's getting challenged. I mean, he's been sued 55 times in this first 2 weeks. That's like 10 times more than the next slowest guy. So that, I mean, what's happened is everyone is so pissed off that the idea of checks and balances is starting to come back, where over the last 12 years we kind of started letting it go in favor of, oh, the president will protect us all. And a lot of to give them credit, the libertarians are the ones that are like, see what we told you.
True.
Like, when it was Obama, you guys were good, but now that Trump's in there, everyone's losing their shit.
Well, yeah, I think what you're talking about is that status quo.
Yeah,
we've been keeping the status quo pretty consistently. Nobody's really rocked the boat that hard. And now that we are, it's like, well, we got to find a way to balance ourselves while plugging up these holes all over the place.
20 executive orders, I think, within the first 10 days or something like that, maybe a little bit more than that. But he signed 20 executive orders and fired an attorney general. Was the attorney general fired because she wouldn't enforce the ban or whatever?
Acting attorney general.
Yeah, acting attorney general. But still, 20 executive orders, and then you fire somebody within the first 2 weeks. Not even 2 weeks within office. This is what's happening, And so
he also fired the head of immigration. And he also fired the person in charge of making sure that the White House doesn't get hacked.
And then they kicked out the generals out of the security meetings, right? Yeah. So the generals, and then he put Bannon in there. You know what I'm saying?
Instead of that was illegal, though. There might be some discrepancy in there.
The Senate can say, hey, we want to confirm your thing, but they still have to do that. And they none of them seem real eager to challenge him on anything. So.
Well, so let's transition to our next segment here, but just really quick, just to define the Federal Reserve. So the central banking system, which is the Federal Reserve, has 3 important features: a central governing board, the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, to oversee the operation of the system, a decentralized operating structure of 12 Federal Reserve banks, and 3, a blend of public and private characteristics, whatever that means. But that board of governors is appointed by the president. So,
yeah, but they don't answer to him, though.
Well, I mean, they technically answer to everybody. I mean, they have to answer to Congress and the president. But the president has the power to appoint who it is that's going to step in to oversee that banking system. So that's where I think it falls under any other cabinet position. Yeah, it's like any other agency.
The biggest point, I think, is that they're unelected.
Right.
So there is no recourse for, hey, this person is doing a terrible job. Let's get them recalled. Let's vote someone else in. You're at the mercy of whoever the current president is. And I mean, how long are their terms for? I don't think he gets to appoint the entire 12-person board.
No.
It's only vacancies that he can fill.
Yeah, I'm not, at least on this webpage. I'm at federalreserve.gov, their FAQ section, and it's not mentioning on here how long their terms are, but that's a good question.
I wouldn't trust that website.
Fake news.
Put it on media bias fact check.